There are plenty of theories out there for what new Pokemon type may be introduced in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Well, what if I told you all of those theories are wrong? Although a new type like Sound type may sound cool in theory, Game Freak has no reason to add it to the game. They haven't added a new Pokemon type since Gen 6, and it doesn't look like they'll do it anytime soon either. Game Freak added the Fairy type back in 2013, a whopping 9 years ago, 14 years after not adding a new type in Pokemon. Back in 1999, when I was a 2-year-old baby, Steel and Dark types were introduced. Why, you may ask? The same exact reason that Fairy type was introduced in 2013, to counter the one type's OPness. See, in Gen 1's case, Psychic types were really overpowered. They only had one weakness, which was Bug types, and as we all know, Bug types suck. Psychic types were also immune to Ghost type moves, making Pokemon like Alakazam absolute gods. In Gen 2, however, Ghost type moves became super effective against Psychic. Dark types were introduced to counter it, and Steel was introduced as a bit of a buffer, with resistance against Psychic. This didn't make Psychic types terrible, but it definitely made the game more balanced. While in 2013, something similar happened. Over the years, Dragon-type Pokemon became more and more powerful. Heck, you can argue that the introduction of the first Dragon-type Pokemon, Dratini, and its evolution line were powerful back in Gen 1. But Game Freak just kept adding these cool-looking beasts that were able to obliterate everything in their path. Although you'd usually only get access to them late game, they had insane stats and only 2 weaknesses, one of which was its health. This commenter put it best. Modern-day Dragon is Gen 1 Psychic. Ridiculous offense. Only one type resists Dragon, and it's done in by Fire and Ground. The one type that Dragon is weak to besides itself is Ice. As we all know, Ice is pathetic. Compounded with the fact that there are many badly designed Ice Pokemon out there, Ice is Gen 1's Ghost and Bug, a type meant to counter the strong type, Psychic, but done in by its own weakness and awful design. That may have been quite the read, but it's true. Even Junichi Masuda, one of the most notable public figures behind the Pokemon games, admitted as much, explaining that one of the hardest things about adding a new type is balancing it against all other types. So now that we established that Game Freak only adds new types to counter the overpowered type that exists in the game, the natural question is, are there any overpowered types right now? Well, it depends who you ask. Many will say that Fairy types themselves are too OP, but others would say that Steel types are insane for their bulkiness and insane number of resistances. Regardless, it looks like there isn't a clear winner for type advantage. Just to make sure though, I decided to look at VGC rankings for the top Pokemon by points. For those that don't know, VGC is essentially the competitive scene for Pokemon. After looking at tournament placings for the past 10 to 12 years, this is what I found. In 2022, out of the top 25 Pokemon with the highest ranking in points, 5 of them were Fairy types, one of which was in the number 2 spot, Zacian, and 0 were Dragon. In 2020, 2 were Dragon and 2 Fairy, but the number 1 spot went to Togekiss, a flying Fairy type. In 2018, 3 of the top 10 were Fairy, 0 Dragon, 3 of the top 10 were Fairy again in 2017, again with Dragon nowhere in sight, and 2015 to 2016 both had 1 Dragon and 1 Fairy in the top 10. 2014 had 3 Dragons and 1 Fairy, and 2013, the introduction of the Fairy type, only had 1 Dragon and no Fairy types in the top 10. Before 2013, Dragon types were pervasive in the top 10, but never went over 3 of the top 10 Pokemon. I'll be honest, my knowledge on the competitive scene is not great, but from my understanding, Fairy types seem to be pretty pervasive, especially in recent years. Some will argue that Fairy types are OP, but are still not as insane as Dragon types were pre-Gen 6. Do you think Fairy types are the new Dragon and Psychic types of the past? Or do you think they're balanced well enough to make an introduction of a new type useless? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to click on the next video if you want. Do it, please.